Well, hello, everyone.
Hey, Jackie.
Welcome to our three consecutive Real Talk Tuesday, third or fourth.
I think this is the third one. Let's see if we can go live here on Instagram.
All
If
right.
it's going to cooperate with us. Okay, I think we are live on Instagram.
Drum roll.
Actually, come on, do the drum roll. We're about to go live. It's coming up.
I'm sure everyone's so excited, having a really hard time logging in because they're so excited to see us.
Yeah, it's about the only thing that happens on time is Real Talk Tuesday.
Yes.
No, I think we're live. We are good on Instagram. We are good on, I think we're good on Facebook. We'll see. And I think we're on YouTube. So anybody that's happening to join us from any of those locations, we appreciate it. I'm going to check and see if we're actually showing up on, yes, we are.
All right. So we're showing up on all the platforms.
You know, I think we got to stop for just a quick second and say a quick thank you to our technology guru who puts this all together.
Please don't make me laugh.
That could be me. And little does Jackie want you to know she's a little under the weather and she could projectile vomit at any moment. So that should keep it entertaining. So I'm going to do my best to make her laugh as much as I possibly can and see if we get some vomit.
No, something else.
No, you don't like that idea? Come on. We got a bunch of people joining on Instagram here.
Yeah, so thanks, Brian. Thank you for figuring everything out. Well, my sole and only job is to show up. And
show up, look good, be smart, and don't throw up.
Yes.
Pretty easy, right?
I have 3 jobs today. I'm sure I can make them all work.
Well, you're kind of running the show here today. I just turn everything on and then I let you run the show today so we can hear what you want to ask about.
All right. Well, I'm going to be asking all the questions today. First and foremost, welcome. This is your space where you can ask all of your real estate related questions, whether they're mortgage questions or real estate questions. We are here to answer everything. I do have a very important question now that we're in May. We are it's my son's birthday and I don't know what day it is.
We're starting out really good here, Jackie.
We're May 5th, so we're getting pretty close to that deadline of May 25th where some important changes are happening with FHA. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I thought you were going to talk about that. No, just kidding.
No.
I'm going to try to throw you for a loop as much as possible today.
Okay.
No, this is a loan question. And of course, you want me to talk about loan stuff. So I'll talk about loan stuff. So I don't even remember when it was, but probably a couple months ago, we had this big to-do about, people in the news and actually some people in the administration basically saying, we're not giving FHA loans. We're not giving home ownership subsidies to illegal aliens. You remember that, right?
I remember very vividly.
Did you hear from some people in the community?
Free in my mind.
So yeah, that was kind of crazy. It was also very inaccurate. So just to give a little bit of background, we have never given homeownership subsidy. The FHA loan has never been available, nor has there been conventional loans, VA loans, USDA loans. None of that has ever been available to illegal aliens. Now, illegal aliens, legal residents, citizens, those are all different definitions, and they're important ones to know because illegal aliens are basically people who are here without a legal right to be here, without legal presence. So they're not allowed to work. They probably do work, but they're not technically allowed to work. And there are not loan programs subsidized by the government, no down payment assistance, no California down payment assistance, giving money to buy a house to people who do not have a legal right to be here. Now, there are some loan programs out there for people with ITIN numbers, okay? Those are not people necessarily that have a visa. They may be here as a visitor. That they do not have the ability to work here. Sometimes when people go through this process of getting residency, they will get an ITIN number and then get an employment authorization document. If you have an employment authorization document, you now have started that legal process to be here. Now you actually have been granted the ability to work here in the United States. Those are the people that used to be able to get, or actually still today can get loans, is people that have an employment authorization document. So probably the most common one that we see is people who are under the DACA program. Okay, so people who were brought to the United States, not through the legal process, but they're usually children when they were brought here. This was not something that they did on their own, but they've been here, they've grown up here, they go to school, they work, and they're legally able to be here. Right now, those folks can still get an FHA loan through the end of May, or almost the end of May. May 28th is the actual cutoff date. Now, you brought up May 25th, and the reason you brought up a few days early, accurately, is that we have to get an FHA case number assigned by the 28th or before the 28th. So we need to actually be under contract a couple days early in order to work through that process of getting a case number assignment done. So that's the thing that's changing at the end of this month, is people who could get FHA loans today, so DACA primarily, but other people who have a legal right to be here. They may be under a visa program, they may be under an L1 visa, H1B visa, different types of visas allow people to be here and to be working. They can get FHA loans. After the end of this month, they will no longer be able to get FHA loans. However, there are still conventional loans done through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that people who, again, legally have the right to be here and the right to work can still get loans under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So really, really important distinction. And probably, I don't know if you see, is it mostly people under the DACA program who are the most concerned about this going away, or are there other types of either visa statuses that you're running into?
Well, yeah, definitely a DACA program. I feel like that's the most. We actually have one under contract right now who was able to get under contract right in time, right before the deadline, and it does seem to be the most concern, since FHA is a more like popular product. It has a little bit of better pricing. Most down payment assistance program are with FHA, so that definitely limits what buyers can do after this deadline. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? Is there down payment assistance programs with conventional, like, what are the guidelines with conventional, and why people would go with FHA versus going with conventional? And I'm asking like 20 questions at a time. And why would a DACA recipient would want to act right now before this deadline?
Yeah, so there are different down payment assistance programs that are available out there. Most commonly, they are on FHA loan programs. So the thing to understand about down payment assistance programs is you have a loan that you got to get for most of the purchase price. That loan is either going to be FHA or it's going to be conventional. The vast majority of down payment assistance programs are FHA loan programs at their core. And then the down payment assistance basically covers the down payment portion, maybe a little bit of the closing costs. So most of the programs are definitely FHA programs, but there are some that are available for conventional programs as well. Conventional programs typically require 3% down, where FHA requires 3.5%. And then some of the different down payment assistance programs, they can range from 1% assistance all the way up to, I think, 5%, maybe 6% is the most that I've seen. And they come in different forms. They have different requirements. They'll usually have credit score requirements that might range from 600 at the absolute lowest up to as high as 660 has been the minimum requirement. A lot of them are in the 620 to 640 range. And then to answer the other of your multiple questions that you gave me there, why would somebody use FHA for down payment assistance versus conventional? The primary reason is that most of the time we see people that are needing down payment assistance are more likely to have credit scores below 700 than above 700. And so what we look at when we're trying to figure out what down payment assistance program is best is we start out there. What does their credit look like, and what are they eligible for on that main loan? Most of the time, if you have a credit score above 700 or 720, a conventional loan is actually going to be more desirable because the mortgage insurance cost is pretty good. The down payment is a little bit lower. So oftentimes that'll calculate out to a lower payment and a lower out of pocket on a conventional loan if you have a high credit score. But more often than not, we see people who are probably lower than 700 or 720 are the ones that are needing the down payment assistance. And when you get into those credit score ranges, FHA is a much better loan program. FHA gets lower interest rates. And in addition to the lower interest rates, the cost of the mortgage insurance is fixed regardless of what your credit score looks like. Whereas if you're looking for conventional financing, the credit score is a factor in both the interest rate and the cost of the mortgage insurance. So anytime you're putting less than 20% down, you have mortgage insurance that you have to pay for. And if your credit score is in the 600s for a conventional loan, it gets pretty expensive. It can be in the hundreds of dollars a month. So we usually detour over to FHA loans for down payment assistance with those lower credit scores.
All right. So attention, DACA recipients, non-resident aliens, act now before May 25th. Well, actually now, because you have to be under contract before that deadline of May 25th. So if you are thinking of buying here in the near future is now. So you need to act now, and get pre-qualified so we can get you out shopping and get you under contract before that deadline.
We also have something that is also important as something that people should do and not wait on. And that is a little special incentive we have for those of you who are joining us on the live stream, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's too big. You can't see it. Let's see if we can shrink that and make it actually visible. There we go. Jackie, what is this for?
Well, you're making it visible, but not visible to me. All right. So that's going to be for everybody that's on the call right now on this live. If you're listening and if you're interested in moving forward, Brian and I have a special incentive. That's going to be an appraisal credit of...
Sorry, I made it too small for you, didn't I? See, who's got controls here? Weren't we just complimenting that person who had control of all the technology? There you go. Now you can see it, right?
Right.
Appraisal credit up to $650, and then a home warranty up to $700. If you close on a purchase transaction with Jackie and I, this does not include down payment assistance programs. Fortunately, with down payment assistance, you get a bunch of assistance, so you hopefully shouldn't need the credit for the appraisal. But Jackie is actually still offering the home warranty up to $700. So there are some restrictions that apply. So if you are interested in that, you can comment on either of our socials, send us direct messages, and we will send you this coupon that you can redeem when you are ready to be able to get up to $1,350 in closing cost assistance.
Who does not love coupons? I love coupons. I still get my little Subway coupons for my 6-inch and a drink and a cookie. Use the coupon. It's even bigger and better. It's for
wait,
house.
This offer just got really good. Are you going to include cookies too?
Hey, I might include cookies.
Oh, man.
Make it even better. I'll include tacos with the purchase. Since it's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday.
Tacos and cookies and money. Gosh, you guys better start commenting now. I think of a better deal. Yeah, I'm really challenging people's eyes here. I'm messing with the screen quite a bit here, aren't I?
Yeah, especially mine. You know I can't see. It's
Well,
setting
we're
me up for failure.
like I said earlier, we're trying to make you dizzy, see if we can get any projectile vomit on the show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's the best thing to do, especially when I'm not home, when I'm out of the country. Let's get some vomit going.
That's exactly it. Where are you? Where are you coming to us from today?
Reporting live from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Ah, you got some fun stuff going on, don't you?
I do. I do. Lots of, well, not right now, but before this, lots of wedding planning, dress shopping, makeup, hair, all
Nice.
of the above. Yes. We
So,
have a wedding right around the corner, so I
yeah,
get on that.
that's exciting. You got to do all the bride stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking for my dress now, 6 months away from the wedding.
Better than 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past me.
What are you seeing? Like you're still obviously working while you're there. You're not showing properties today, but you have a teammate to do that. But what are you hearing people talk about in the market? Like, are you seeing like more activity, less activity? Is there concerns? Like, what's going on?
Well, when I leave, there tends to be more activity all the time. But I'm lucky to have a good team that's backing me up. I have a team that I can leverage to take care of those clients. So even though I'm out of the country right now, if you're somebody that's interested in buying, uh, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I have my team, and we can take great care of you. But as far as the market right now, I'm seeing a lot of I do have a couple listings, and I have noticed that they're sitting a little longer, which tells me that there's more houses available in the market, which means for buyers that there's more options. Therefore, if there's more options, there's more houses, there's better deals, right? We can negotiate better deals for you, since there's more and you can get a better option, you can get more repairs, you can get more concessions, you can get just overall a better deal because there's so much to choose from. And sellers are a little bit more flexible right now to negotiate. So right now is definitely a great time to do so. I actually just in the last week, we put it's team effort. We put 3 buyers under contract, so I definitely see things moving. I don't think the market it's going to sit for how it has been a little bit more stagnant for longer. I do see things moving faster now. As far as my clients, the concerns that my clients have are again DACA recipients or people that are concerned with, should I buy now? Do you think this is a good time? But what about the rates? Where do you think the rates are heading? Like, should I just wait and buy later? So what can you tell us about that? What can you tell us about the rates? And like, where do you think they're heading?
Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Okay. I've got my crystal ball. Let me see what can happen with the mortgage rates. Anybody that tries to tell you that they know exactly what's going to happen with mortgage rates is full of it. Nobody really knows for sure, but I can give you some insight on it. But just, I wanted to piggyback on what you said as far as like what we're seeing in the market and the ability to negotiate. Like I was just reviewing a closing disclosure for one of our loan officers, and literally the amount due at closing from the buyer is $0.00. Like he got into a house with nothing out of pocket. You just negotiated a contract with how much in concessions?
Over 10,000, 10,500. I want to say
Yeah, and the price of the house was
315.
Yeah, I mean, you can get plenty of money. I think at the end of the day, like there's still massaging of the numbers and finalizing all the numbers, but they're going to probably get into a house with pretty much nothing out of pocket. So it's not a guarantee, but that's what you see when you're talking about having houses sit on the market a little bit longer is like you can go in there and you can ask for a lot because sellers are willing to do it. If they're listing their house to sell, then they've got to sell. It's not really a time where people are trying to time things out, because it's just hard to predict anything. Like when we look at the market and we try to figure out what's going to happen with interest rates, there's so much volatility and change. I mean, you just look at from the beginning of last month, we had the announcement of the tariffs, Liberation Day, I think it was April 2nd. And all of this craziness in the stock market, if you paid attention to the news, which I highly recommend that you don't, but if you did get sucked into the news, they wanted to tell you that your retirement was gone. People aren't going to be able to retire. Stock market's crashing. And then lo and behold, where are we at? Back to where we were before Liberation Day. So the volatility is really hard to be able to have any confidence of what's going to happen going forward. There's obviously been a pause put on for 90 days for some of the second level of tariffs. So that's helped kind of stabilize the feelings in the market. But generally speaking, if we see unemployment go up and the economy weakening, that's going to be a good thing for mortgage rates. Right now, we're not necessarily seeing that. They've sort of been trickling down a little bit. The last couple of days went up a little bit. Today, they got a little bit better. But what I think is going to happen in the shorter term is we're going to see a lot of ups and downs and a lot of volatility because in less than 90 days, we're going to have some of those tariffs go back into place unless there's some new agreements that come about. We had some unemployment numbers or some employment numbers, I should say. There was more jobs created than what was anticipated. That's not good for mortgage rates. The Fed is going to come out tomorrow and talk about their decision to probably not change the Fed funds rate tomorrow. That probably won't do a whole lot unless they start talking about things and indicating that they have more fears of inflation. I think that's the biggest thing for people is if the economy is strong and tariffs start causing any kind of price increases where there's inflation pressures, that could mean interest rates go up. But if those tariffs actually slow the economy down as a result of the higher prices, that's actually deflationary. And if we start to see things be deflationary, then that should be good for mortgage rates. So basically, lots of words to tell you. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. So you got to just live your life and take advantage of what you can. What you can take advantage of, like you said, is more negotiating leverage to get a good price, to get concessions to help you get into a house with very little out of pocket. And then let's say rates are wherever they are today, and 6 months, a year from now, rates are lower. Well, then you refinance into a better interest rate, but now you already own the house. What do you like to call that, Jackie?
Marry the house, date the rate.
Marry the house and date the rate. Exactly. I love saying that so much.
Yeah, it's so original, right?
I'm sure no one's seen that on the.
Very unique.
Yeah, I think we just came up with that.
So I know that we were briefly having a conversation about student loans and how that may affect your debt to income ratio and how that may be counted against you in your credit. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, so people with student loans might be in for a really big surprise and not in a, oh, look at that big present under the Christmas tree kind of surprise. More like, oh crap, I can't qualify for a house anymore. And the reason for that is that everybody kind of remembers this little thing called the COVID pandemic. And what they did during the pandemic was, in I think it was March of 2020, the Department of Education said, okay, guess what? Like, we know that everybody's hurting. If you have student loans, we're not going to make you make any payments. So they stopped charging interest. They stopped requiring payments. And then they also said that they're not going to report any delinquencies on people's credit. And so what a lot of people have done is they've basically stopped making payments on their student loans And I don't know if they forgot about them or exactly what happened, but they just stopped making payments, assumed that they maybe were going to get forgiven or that nothing was going to happen. And that was never really going to be true. Payments actually officially resumed in September of 2023. But at the time, student loan servicers were told, don't report any late payments to the credit bureaus until October of 2024, and then only do it if people are over 90 days late. And in the press release that the Department of Education just put out, they actually said that there's just 38% of the 43 million student loan borrowers are actually current on their payments. So only, a little over a third of people are actually current in making their payments. There's over 5 million people that haven't made payments in more than a year, and they're already in default. And then there's another 4 million that are in late stage delinquency. So basically between 90 and 180 days late. So we've got basically 10 million borrowers out of the 43 million, about a quarter of them, who could soon find on their credit reports massive delinquencies being reported. And so what's going to end up happening is, if you're in that boat and you've just been ignoring the reality that student loan payments began over a year ago, and just put your head in the sand, you're going to start seeing some massive drops in credit scores. They're saying that it's about an average of 63 points. And it depends on how good your credit score was to start with. So if you had really high credit scores, that could have actually resulted in drops by like 150 to 200 points. So we've actually had some clients, not personal ones of mine, but within our company, where they saw a 200-point drop in their credit scores because their delinquencies on their student loans just popped up all of a sudden in the process between when they were pre-approved and when they started going out and shopping for a house. So if you have student loans, don't just ignore it. It's not going to go away. It's actually going to be a big problem if you ignore it. So what you want to do actually is you want to reach out to your student loan servicer. Typically it's Sallie Mae is one of the more common ones. But yeah, you can actually go online and check out your status on your student loans and make sure that you initiate that discussion with them to try to get into a repayment plan. There are actually repayment plans that are income-driven repayment plans. So maybe if your income is still really low, maybe you didn't get a good paying job after you graduated, you could actually get into a program where there's zero payments required, but you're actually current. There's not going to be delinquencies being reported. It's just that based on your income, they determine you can't afford to make payments yet. So, but you have to communicate with them. You have to get onto a plan. That income-driven repayment plan can be very, very low payments. So that's entirely possible too. Or it can be no payments. Or if you've already gotten into delinquency, you may have to get into a plan to get you out of delinquency. And a lot of times if you're in that plan for over 90 days and you're making payments on time, sometimes those late payments can go away. So the biggest message is just don't ignore it. Like, don't pretend like it's not there. Contact your student loan servicer and figure out a plan to be able to get you in a point where you're in their good graces and they're not going to be reporting that you're delinquent on your student loans.
So yeah, don't pay your dues, pay your debt. Don't forget to pay your debt. We don't want it to go to collections because that may affect your approval. Especially if it's already delinquent, and especially if it's going to be a drop of 60 plus points. That's definitely going to affect your approval and your chances to get to buy a home. So definitely look into that. Speaking of approval, buying a home, why don't you give us a little update about down payment assistance programs?
Well, there's depends on where you're at. So there's some down payment assistance programs that are nationwide, and some of them are more local. So in Arizona here, we have some programs through some of the government agencies that are set up to promote homeownership. And we had one that was a really good program. It's called the Home in 5 Platinum program. That one was actually where the state agency that funded it, they're basically buying you a below market interest rate. I think they started out at the 5.7 when it first came out. It inched up a little bit, but as you can imagine, if interest rates were higher than that on regular FHA loans, then it was like, okay, well, why am I bringing my own down payment in if I can get a lower interest rate by going on this down payment assistance program? So they ran out of money really quickly. Do you remember how long it lasted?
Yeah.
It was like 1 month, wasn't it?
Yeah. They just like came and went.
Yeah, and you were doing the tracker really good. Watch it by hour. Okay,
Yeah,
10 million that way.
10 million, boom, done. You're done.
Yeah, so that didn't last very long. That wasn't cool. But there's another program that is a state program. It's the Home Plus program. That one's been around for a long time. That one is still available, and that one does have some options for conventional loans, not just FHA loans. It also can work with VA loans and USDA loans. And then there's another program that is, I think it's new this year, if I'm not mistaken. It's called the Arizona is Home program that also is funded by the state. And that is actually offering, probably about at market interest rate. So it's not as good as the Home in 5 Platinum program. Right now, that one on FHA loans is at 6.625. So it's still a really good interest rate, and it gives people the assistance of covering their down payment, actually gives 4%, and it doesn't require any repayment. So there's no monthly payments on it. There's no interest being accrued, and it's forgiven after a period of time. And then you've got the regular Home in 5 program that is actually still available as well. Not the Platinum program, but the Home in 5 program. So those are the ones that are the local ones that are available. Again, some with conventional loans, most of them with FHA loans. And then there's some nationwide programs that have different forms of down payment where some of them are forgivable, some of them have repayment terms to them. But really, at the end of the day, you just have to talk to somebody. Like if you're thinking that you might want to buy a house, like contact one of us, get your coupon for tacos and cookies and appraisals and home warranties. And then we can figure out what program is best for you. What I like to do is just put them side by side, show people what the choices are, and then let you decide.
So speaking of down payment assistance, is it just for first-time home buyers? Because I actually get that a lot. Oh, hey, I want to know about first-time home buyer programs.
I thought we were going to start talking about cookies. I thought you were going to transition over to cookies.
I want cookies.
So first-time home buyers, you don't have to be first-time home buyers. Some programs you do, but not all programs. So that's a very common thing. It's funny, I get that question. You probably get it too. Like, what first-time home buyer programs are there? You get that a lot, right?
I do.
Yeah, and I mean, there are definitely some programs, especially the down payment assistance ones, where the requirement is that you have to be a first-time home buyer, but there's still a lot of down payment assistance programs that you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. There's also some benefits to regular loans. Like if you do have money for your own down payment, you don't need down payment assistance. You can do 3% down on a conventional loan if you're a first-time home buyer, but you can also do 3% down on a conventional loan if you're not a first-time home buyer, but your income is under certain limits. So there's lots of different ways to go about it, but there's really, there's not something that's remarkably better for being a first-time home buyer. That's the thing that people think, is that you get some kind of a amazingly better program just because you're a first-time buyer. And it's usually not the case, you know? So don't be afraid. If you had a house before, like, you can still get one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And probably with an even better program than what you got before. Right now, when you were talking about down payment assistance, you briefly touched on the VA and USDA. What are some of the benefits that VA programs offer when purchasing a home?
I'll answer that, but I have a question for you about that. Do you get um, do you get people asking you if there is benefits for veterans?
Yes, I
Yeah,
kind of doubted myself. Yes, I thought
yeah.
you
And,
were going to ask me about first-time home buyers, but yes, I do.
well, it's funny because I get that. Like literally, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and he talked to the real estate agent first, and he was probably 10, 15 minutes into the conversation with the real estate agent, and then he said, "Is there anything for veterans available?" And the real estate agent, he should be listening, Frank, but he's not. Um, he says, "Well, yeah, absolutely. Make sure you tell Brian when you talk to him that you're a veteran." So then he, sends the contact info. I get on the phone with them, and I'm, a good 15 minutes into the conversation with him. He hasn't mentioned one word about it, and then asked me the same question: "Is there anything special for veterans?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. There's something special for veterans."
Very special, actually.
Yeah, extremely special, like the best loan program that's out there. And I hear that a lot. And what I'll tell you is that I've found more often than not when it's somebody who is a little bit older, maybe not older than me, but maybe older than me. But generally, people that I would say like 50s, 60s, and older, they just didn't make them very aware of their benefits for having served. I think the military is doing a lot better job now where, people that we talk to that are in their 20s and 30s and even 40s who have served or are serving, they're aware that there's, some VA benefits for home ownership, but they really don't prep them for what those benefits are. Like one of the misconceptions that we hear all the time for veterans is that they think that they can only use their veterans benefits for a home purchase one time. And that's not true. It's not even true that you can only have one VA loan at a time. You can actually have multiple VA loans at a time. And most people think you can only have one at a time. So that's one thing that's definitely misunderstood about the VA program. I think most people that are aware of it know that it's zero down. So that's a pretty easy benefit that I think most people understand is you don't have to come in with a down payment. But some people actually think that means zero out of pocket. And while that's definitely possible, especially with a good agent like Jackie who can negotiate seller concessions, but it's not guaranteed. So I've had many people say to me, well, I thought VA loans had no closing costs. And that's not true. They definitely have closing costs. But another thing that people don't understand about it is that there's also a below market interest rate. So not lower than everything else, but comparable to an FHA loan. And generally speaking, I would say on average about 0.5% better than conventional loans. So you get a better interest rate than conventional. You get a comparable interest rate to FHA. You get zero down payment. You also get the ability for you to have no mortgage insurance when you're not putting any, 20% down. So your monthly payment's going to be a lot lower because you've got a lower interest rate and no mortgage insurance. So that is not the case for any other loan program. If you're putting, zero down on an FHA or conventional loan because of down payment assistance, you're going to have mortgage insurance. Conventional loan, your interest rate's going to be higher. USDA is another program that has zero down, but there's mortgage insurance on that. So far and away, the VA loan program is much, much better than every other loan program. And then there's also something that's really unique about it that most people, both home buyers, real estate agents, and I would tell you the vast majority of lenders don't know this, is that with the VA loan program, if you've got a good real estate agent that can negotiate a lot of seller concessions to help with your closing costs, you can actually get the seller to pay all of your closing costs. Plus, you can get them to pay up to 2 discount points. And discount points are basically what you pay extra today to buy a lower interest rate for the long term. And in addition to that, they can actually get 4% of the purchase price to go toward paying off debts that they may have. So that this client that I'm referring to, he was asking about his VA benefits, what he's going to be able to try to do is get all of his closing costs, get a little lower interest rate by getting the points, and then also see if we can get 4%, which, on a $300,000 house, that's $12,000 to go pay off debts. And in a lot of people's cases, that could be a lot of debts and a lot of monthly payment that goes away because the seller is going to pay it off for you as part of the home purchase. So you can't do that with any other loan program except FHA. So even when you think that maybe, you got too many debts to be able to qualify, you can actually try to get them paid off by the seller. And then in addition to that, the VA loan is more flexible in allowing you to qualify for a higher payment than you would on any other loan program too. Not to get too far in the weeds on it, but we don't have to use the same rules and the same calculations as we do with other loan programs. So if you are active duty, if you are a veteran, absolutely check into that with us or anybody else because you've earned it. You should be utilizing it. A lot of veterans or actually active duty service members have been able to acquire multiple properties as they PCS. Now that we're in PCS season, from one duty station to another, they'll buy a house using their VA benefit. They get PCS to another location. They buy another house with their VA benefit. They relocate again. They can buy another house with their VA benefit. And there's a reasonable chance that at least on the first two, you might be able to do that with zero down. The third one, you might have a little bit of a down payment, but we can do all those calculations in advance so people can figure out how many houses can they purchase and do it with zero down on their VA loan.
That's actually funny that you mentioned that. I'm sure you remember, I was actually under the impression that we could only get 4% in concessions, not closing costs, and in addition to everything already paid, 4% in concessions. I thought the limit was 4%. And we didn't have that specific client go into their home with zero down, right? If I can remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're actually ahead of the game for realtors, to be honest with you, knowing the 4% number, because most don't know 4%. But if they've heard anything, they've heard 4%. Mm-hmm. And I would tell you probably, I'm guessing here, but probably 95% to 100% of agents don't know there's 4% above closing costs and the 2 discount points. So that's something that's very unique to the
VA product.
The VA program, but it's also unique to the knowledge base of lenders out there because a lot of lenders don't know that either.
Yeah. I've done VA loans before, and I didn't hear that until you said it. And I was like, what? You can pay this, and that, and still get 4%? What is this? What kind of magic is this? And it's a $500,000 purchase too.
It's the same kind of magic that I have with my crystal ball.
Yeah. Predicting the future.
The wizard over here.
The wizard of U-Mortgage.
Exactly. The wizard of getting you into a house with cookies and tacos. Like, what kind of offer is that? Nobody else has that offer. Nobody else can do tacos.
Nobody else has that offer. But speaking of cookies and tacos, if you're eating it out every day, are you eating out every day? And you tell me that you can't afford it now. The public.
I'm never eating out.
You know what I also hear a lot is I can't afford that payment. I can't afford to buy a house. And typically when somebody can't afford it, I always ask, is it the down payment? Is it the monthly payment? What is it that you can't afford? Because if you don't have the down payment, then programs like down payment assistance come into play. So that's really not, there's your solution right there. That's really not an excuse, right? So you have down payment assistance programs. You have great agents like me that can negotiate on your behalf and get you into a home with very little down. So what is it that's really stopping you? Well, I can't afford the payment. Well, can you? Can you afford the payment? Like, let me look at your bank statement and see how many times you're eating out. How many times you're getting Starbucks a week. That adds up. Especially if you're getting Starbucks and a pastry or whatever coffee you get and a pastry. That's $10, $12 every single day. And that's just once. That's not even counting your lunch, your dinner, if you're going out every weekend, if you're maybe getting $20 drinks at the bar. It's a lot. It really adds up. Or if you have $1,000 car payment.
Yeah, it's crazy. We see people who will go get a new car and have, $700 payment, $800 payment, $1,000 payment, and then they want to figure out about buying a house. It's like, hello, are you gonna sleep in that truck? I mean, it's just the backwards order of doing things. But you're right. Like, I think maybe what a good plan for us would be is to just go find a Starbucks and like sit out in front of the Starbucks and stop people from going in there and buying their Starbucks and their pastries and ask them if they bought a house yet. Because like it adds up. Like now we don't really go out very much. Like we used to eat out a lot more, but it got ridiculously expensive. And now if you go out, like the number that sticks in my head is not even for like a nice sit down dinner, but like just even to go get takeout from a restaurant, not necessarily from a fast food place, like you're probably looking at what, $17 a plate to $20 a plate, something like that. Like you can get a burger and fries is probably going to cost you $15. Like how many times are you going to do that in a month and like start your day off with, like you said, a coffee and, a pastry or something in the morning? You're racking up those expenses all the time. I'm looking at bank statements and, we can see on a bank statement, somebody going to like, the liquor store, the gas station, $20 a day, $25 a day. Like, okay, so you're buying your 12 pack of beer to go home and, drink that every night or every other day. Like how many expenses are you spending money on that are not as important as having a house? And what changes can you make in your lifestyle to be able to get yourself and your family ahead by owning a house? And sometimes it's just like looking at it and paying attention to it because we just like go about our lives doing the things that we're used to doing. But until you actually put the priority on owning a house, you don't realize there could be some really easy changes that you can make. Like I'm sure you've probably had some clients in the past where you've had that conversation and then there was something pretty easy that you could point out that could change their outlook on whether they could afford something or not, right?
Yeah, usually it's a payment. Well, I pay $2,000 right now. I don't want to go up to 2,500. Okay, $500 is a problem. So if you divide that $500 in 30 days, let me actually do the math because I'm not Brian.
I gave up math in my head a long time ago.
So that's $17 a day. Your Starbucks trip, that's already like $10, $12 a day. And that's without counting you eating out, doing anything else over the weekend, eating out a second time a day, getting lunch, like $17 a day. And it's just if you can really pay attention to where you're spending your money. Actually, most banks have this. If you look at your statements, or if you look at your spending habits, you'll see where your money goes. If it goes to food and beverage, gas, groceries, it kind of divides everything in a little wheel, and you can really see how much you're spending in a month. I was actually one to do that. I was having Dutch. I am a Dutch Bros girl. I was having Dutch like 2-3 times a day. And I wasn't eating out, but I was having Dutch 2-3 times a day.
Now let's get this clear. You weren't actually eating at all.
No, I was just
having coffee all day.
That's a very good diet, by the way. I lost a lot of weight on that.
Not when you have it as a mocha with whipped cream all the time.
Yeah, well, realistically, it was more like 2 a day, sometimes 3, depending on how many showings I had a day. But I was having coffee all day. And I remember that I didn't buy, I wouldn't buy myself a Stanley cup because it was the only cup that I knew would keep my water cold because it gets so hot in Arizona, like during showings. So instead, I went to Circle K and bought a water bottle, hot Cheetos, and a vitamin water. And every trip was $7, $8. And I was thinking, I'm not going to buy a $50 cup. That's ridiculous. And then I was spending $70 just in that trip without including the coffee, even if I had coffee once a day. So that already, it's like $20 a day that I'm spending daily, every single day. And it really is just looking at your expenses. You're looking at your daily habits, like your spending habits, and just making a sacrifice for the greater good. I'm not saying, well, you're not allowed to spend anything ever again, but there's definitely some things that can wait, like maybe getting coffee every day. And especially right now where it's not just your coffee, like now, like the tipping culture is out of control and you have to tip for your coffee, tip for this, tip for that. Everybody wants a tip. So that's, even if you're getting coffee, that's already like a $9-10 expense just because you have to add a tip on top of it. So yeah, I
Hey,
guess long story short, go ahead.
can we put out a tip jar on this show? Like,
We should.
figure out how to make that work.
So
No, if any of you that are on here, please, we got a few minutes left. Feel free to type in any questions that you have. Let me actually pull up our special coupon. So while you're not out shopping and eating out like you're not supposed to do anymore, and you want to be a coupon shopper, Jackie, how can people save some money when they buy a house?
well, by working with me, of course, I'm going to save you all of your closing costs. But
There you go.
yes. So by working with us, aside from my really great negotiating skills, I'm trying to read Brian, but you did it again. But I'm going to just go off of memory. Brian and I are offering a coupon, and that coupon applies on any purchase that's made with us. And that's going to be a $650, up to $650 credit for appraisals, and a $700 up to $700 home warranty credit if you purchase a home with us, including your cookies and including your tacos.
We got to add the cookies and the tacos to the coupon. We're going to have to get the marketing department.
Put little pictures on it.
Yeah. Then some restrictions apply. Down payment assistance programs won't be eligible for the appraisal credit, but they will be eligible for the home warranty. So definitely you can do that. We've got somebody commenting that the Gio Luna Primetime Bulls, I bought my first house 3.5 years ago. Would I be able to get a second home with no money down? Good question. Let me bring the screen back up here.
I love that question.
What's that?
I said, I love that question. It gets me excited. I get it all the time, but go ahead.
Yeah. So the answer is maybe. So here's the thing with down payment assistance. That's the way that you get in with zero down. Okay. Not all down payment assistance programs, like we talked about, require you to be a first-time home buyer. But the definition of a first-time home buyer is, have you owned real estate in the last 3 years? Not have you bought it within the last 3 years. So in this particular case, since you do currently own, I'm assuming from your question, you currently own a home and you have owned the home within the last 3 years, then you would not be a first-time home buyer. So now any of those down payment assistance programs that require you to be a first-time home buyer, you wouldn't qualify for those. So then we would shift and look at the programs to see if you don't have to be a first-time home buyer, are you eligible for those? So some of those may have income limits, but what a lot of them have is a requirement that you don't own any other real estate currently. So maybe depending on the program, if you definitely want to look at that, we can dig into the particulars of your situation and see what programs are available for you, what might you qualify for, and do those down payment assistance programs require that you not have any other ownership of real estate. There are some that are okay with you owning other real estate, but I would tell you most of them say that you can't own any other real estate currently. Then in follow-up question, or 3% down, you got the first house with an FHA loan. So the 3% down would not be one that would be available, but 5% would. So one of the strategies that a lot of people will do is they'll buy their first home, but they want to start acquiring additional real estate. So instead of saving up 20% down and buying an investment property to put tenants in there, they'll keep their first property and turn that one into an investment property to put tenants in, and then they'll go buy a new primary residence. So if you go buy a new primary residence, then you can get in with 5% down on a conventional loan. FHA has some restrictions where it's going to be a little difficult to get the FHA loan on the second property, because they have a rule that says you have to be over 100 miles away from the other property if we're going to use any of the income from that. We call it a departing residence. So your current house that you're going to put tenants into, if you need to use that income from the tenants to help offset the payment, then that property has to be over 100 miles away. Now, that only applies if you're going to get the FHA loan for the next property. And then if you had an FHA loan on the first one, there's also a 100-mile rule that says in order to get a second FHA loan, you have to be over 100 miles away unless there's a change in your family situation that requires that you like get a larger house. Maybe you've had a couple more kids in those 3.5 years. So there's a lot of little things that we've got to watch out for in your particular situation. So hopefully that kind of answered it, but if not, definitely reach out to us, get your coupon for your cookies and your tacos and your money, and then we'll figure out if you can get in with an FHA loan. But more than likely, the route for you to go is 5% down on a conventional for a new primary residence, and then turn your current house into an investment property. And you can literally do that every year. You just need to stay in the house that you're buying as your primary residence for a year. After you pass a year, you can buy another primary residence with another 5% down, and then keep that second property as a rental property. I'm hoping I got any of the other questions. I don't think I saw any other ones coming in here before that. And I know we are running up against the top of the hour. Jackie, did you have any other questions that you had seen come in either before or during the live here?
I know that we touched on this last time, but I did see, I'm looking at it right now. It's a question about down payment again. So down payment, first time buyer minimum. You kind of just went over that with him. I'm assuming that he got a 3% conventional down. Can you just tell us, as a first time buyer, if you're putting your own down payment, how much you're putting down in most cases?
Yeah, so on conventional loan, you're looking at 3%. FHA is 3.5%. USDA, which is in rural areas, so basically not inside the metropolitan, like Maricopa County, Pinal County. Once you get a little bit farther in the outskirts, USDA is eligible. That is 0 down, and VA is 0 down. But those are the underlying loan programs, but then there's down payment assistance on top of that. So a lot of times people can get in with 0 down on most of those programs.
I know that, the common misconception is 20%. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's still, these days, people think it's 20% down for whatever reason. Actually, we did a little video on that, didn't we?
Did, yes.
Yeah, and that really just, it came from that it used to be that way, but it was a really long time ago that it was 20% down, because if you can believe this, back when I started.
Is that when you bought your first home?
No, I bought my first home with 0 down.
Oh, okay.
But
so it wasn't in your age.
No, I didn't have any money. Like, we had no money, just, kids trying to start out. And that's what it is for most people. But, even farther back, like even when I started this 30 years ago, it wasn't 20% down. Like it was over 30 years ago that it was 20% down. I don't remember exactly when that was, but that's just carried forward. So like when it was that way with, our grandparents, that just kind of carried forward. And then there got to be this thing even back then where I was like, okay, you got to put 20% down because you don't want this nasty little thing called mortgage insurance. And there used to be some tax advantages to putting 20% down and splitting it up into 2 loans. But most of those are gone. Most people can deduct the cost of mortgage insurance on their taxes. Check with your tax advisor. And then the other thing is that the cost of the mortgage insurance has gotten pretty inexpensive. So definitely don't need to do 20% down. And honestly, you shouldn't do 20% down, because you can actually use that money for something more productive, like buying another property, rather than putting too much money down on a purchase. So there you go. We have another question.
Too.
What's that?
I said you definitely want to keep your money for a rainy day too.
Yep. Another question on here. How does Carlos, El Roofer, how does it work buying land off of someone else who has lots of acres and wants to sell some acres? Do you want to handle the real estate part of that question, and I can talk about the loan part of it?
You can go into the loan part of it. I'm still trying to digest the question.
So I think what he's saying is somebody has, let's say it's 40 acres contiguous, and they might want to sell, let's say, 5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing that, basically it's going to typically, unless there's already been subdivision and into multiple lots, like maybe there's 8 5-acre lots next to each other, then you could sell one of those 5-acre lots. But if it's all one parcel, then they're going to have to start with doing a survey in order to subdivide into a separate parcel. So you start with a survey, subdivide that into the parcels that want to be sold. Once there's a subdivision that's recorded with the county, then you get into, okay, how do I pay for it? Yes, and
that's your question. Then you answered mine and yours.
So Carlos said yes, that's correct. That's what he meant. So then you got to figure out, how do you pay for it? So the ways that you pay for it is you can get a loan to purchase the lot by itself. That is typically going to be in the neighborhood of about 30% down, because it's usually local banks that are doing those. We have a lender that will do it, but they have a requirement that you have a $100,000 loan. So if you're talking about getting a lot that's going to cost you $30,000, probably going to be tough to find a loan on that. I don't have anybody that would do that. But if it was a more expensive lot, 100,000, we could do that. Actually, I think I have another one that will go down a little bit lower than that. So that's one way to do it, is just get a land loan. But the other way to do it is to roll the acquisition of the lot into the construction of a home. So if you're going to actually look to build a home on it, we can do something called a one-time close construction loan. It allows you to include the cost of buying the lot and building the house all into one loan. And so when that loan closes, before we can close it, you've got to have your builder, you've got to have all the plans and specs, we got to get an appraisal on what the house is going to be worth after it's built. That's what we establish the value of the property on. So we can actually lend, depending on the loan program, we can do that with a VA loan. We can do that with a conventional loan. We can do that with an FHA loan as well. So it's the same parameters under those programs. So you could actually acquire a lot if you're a veteran and you have VA benefits. You could potentially buy the lot and build the house with 0 down. You can do that FHA with 3.5% down. You can do that conventional with 5% down. So you can actually roll all of that stuff together, the whole cost of building a custom house on a lot and acquiring the lot, all into one loan. Pretty cool, huh?
I like it.
And if you call us, you get cookies and tacos.
Yes.
What else is better than that? Let's see, any other questions coming in? And I think that we covered them all. So if not, again, if you guys are interested, make sure you reach out to us, call us if you've got our contact info or direct message, and we will get you your coupon and then figure out what we can do to help you out. And then we're going to start doing this weekly. Right, Jackie?
Cada martes a las 5.
So what is next Tuesday? But we're actually going to be doing, we're going to alternate. So we're going to be doing 1 week on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube like we are here today. Next week, we're going to be going over to TikTok and play the TikTok game. And then after that, we'll come back to Facebook and Instagram. So you'll be able to catch us every Tuesday at 5 on some platform somewhere. So make sure if you haven't followed us yet, follow us. Bring your questions. We'll answer whatever questions you guys have. And then if Jackie's feeling in a giving mood, she'll offer up tacos next time as well.
Well, it's Tuesday, so it's got to happen.
That's it. Taco Tuesday. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Jackie, thank you for being a trooper. I know you don't feel good. Thank you for not throwing up on camera.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.